everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lucas Live. We're excited to be here with you again. It is May 27th, 2020. So glad to have you guys here today. Sadly, there are some tough things going on in the news right now that we have to address and we have to talk about. I want to thank you guys as you're joining the broadcast. We also have a great guest today. We're going to have a great time. We're going to share great information. You may be watching this by replay right now. You may be on Facebook, LinkedIn, Periscope, YouTube. I thank you. It may be a day from now. It may be years from now. But please stay tuned because our guest is going to be amazing. She's going to share some great information about how her journey and how she started her business, how she went from an idea to putting her business in a binder to going to a brick and mortar actual business serving people. So she's going to share her inspirational story about that and talk to you about how you too can bring your dreams to reality. So many of us have dreams, we have goals, we have visions, but that's all they ever stay. Dreams, goals, and visions, they never become a reality. Our guest today is going to help you with that. So I'm excited about that. But I do want us to talk about an important social issue going on right now. Again, sadly, as we talked about on yesterday's show, a black man in America was killed for no reason. And not only was he killed for no reason, he was killed by the people who are sworn to protect and serve the communities that we live in. He was murdered by the police, ladies and gentlemen, murdered by the police. He wasn't accidentally killed. He was murdered, okay? And there's no justification for it. There's no way we can stand by and not act like that's not what it was. And I have to say something. I talked about it yesterday. I have to talk about it again today. This is not what the whole show is going to be about today, but we will have a whole show about this. We will be talking about this more. We have to bring awareness to what's going on right now in our country, what's going on right now in the world. It is so sad to know that just being black in America could cost you your life. This man had done nothing. Maybe he had done some small crime or something he was accused of, but there's no way that this man should have died in the street the way he did. It is extremely sad and extremely serious, and I hope we all take it seriously. I hope a few things are not happening. So there's a couple things that I'm concerned about. One, I'm concerned that we see this so often that we are desensitized to it. We have seen so many black men and women killed, especially black men, killed by the police, killed in the streets, killed, that we're like numb. It's like, oh, here we go again. How could that be possible? How could we be at a place where it's here we go again, sadly, when it's such a horrible, horrible thing? The worst thing you can do to anybody is to take their life. The worst thing you can do to a family is take the life of their loved one. And our police force around the country in different areas of our country are killing black men with no regard for their life. I mean, putting his knee on his neck like he was an animal in the street if somebody did that to an animal, you understand the animal rights people would be marching in the streets. And the funny part is there wouldn't be tear gas and there wouldn't be all this madness and they wouldn't be standing there with rubber bullets. They'd be saying, we understand those animals have rights too. But somehow when it's a black man, they're lower than an animal. They're less than an animal, right? And then when we say things like Black Lives Matter, we're treated like we're saying only Black Lives Matter and nobody else. We should not have to say Black Lives Matter. We should not have to say you shouldn't abuse your wife. We shouldn't have to say you shouldn't abuse your children. We shouldn't have to say those things, but we do. Because when we talk about things like that, we are bringing awareness to a problem that men, you need to stop abusing your wives, right? So when we say that, we're not saying that husbands don't matter. We're not saying that husbands don't get abused. We're not saying anything other than let's bring awareness to the fact that there are women being abused. So when we say Black Lives Matter, it is the saddest statement that we have to make, that we have to say, oh, just to remind you real quick, Black Lives Matter. In case you forgot, Black Lives Matter. In case you thought you could kill us, you can't. Black Lives Matter. They just matter. Like that's not that big. That's not asking too much to accept the fact that they just at least matter, right? Mattering is like the most basic thing we could say about black lives. There's so much more that we should be able to say about that, and we can say about that, but sadly, this is the state of where we're at. So ladies and gentlemen, as I sit before this scene here behind me, knowing that right now around our country, that there are protests going on, that there is tear gas being shot into crowds, that there are rubber bullets, that someone else may die as people fight for the rights that we supposedly have had forever. The rights that we question when they play the national anthem, and black athletes and many others question whether it's really true, whether the words are really true, and people get upset because athletes are kneeling during a song like they're not reverencing God. Somehow we made our country God. Somehow we made our flag our Bible. Somehow we made it the cross and Jesus. Somehow we got things confused, and we have this great reverence like this is God's kingdom. This is the United States of America. Some countrymen made up, and they came over here. Maybe they were founded on Christian beliefs, but it's funny because somehow in those Christian beliefs, they didn't even believe that women should vote. They didn't believe that black people were even human. They didn't have the right to vote. They weren't even a full man or woman. They could rape them and steal their children and sell them like property. And somehow the descendants of those people like myself are supposed to sing and love the national anthem. And we're supposed to celebrate all those who died. Well, what if we take a knee for the people who died by the same hand that supposedly is supposed to love us? The same hand that is supposedly trying to feed us and care for us. It is insane. It is insane, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what race you are. I don't know if you know me or not. I don't know if it's your first time tuning in. If it is, welcome to the show. We're going to have a great show today. But if you're my friend of any color, I hope that you're outraged. I hope that you're not just sad, like, oh, that's too bad. I hope you're not saying, oh, we need more facts. I don't know what else you need to see. If you saw that video, I don't know what else you need to see. He was handcuffed. You can't resist when you're handcuffed. The law says that. You're not really resisting if you're cuffed. They're at least not allowed to do what that officer was doing, putting his knee on his neck. And when people were calling it out, what did they do? They stood by. The other officer stood by and enabled him to do it. Nobody stepped up and said, my man, like, get your knee off of that man's neck. You are killing him. He's not even freaking moving. Like, what are you doing? He's dying. And you just leave him. You just allow it to go on. And your only concern is like, keep these cameras away. That is insane. It's madness, and it's not okay. So again, I said this yesterday. If you know me, if you like me, if you love me, if you're any color, I have family, friends of all nationalities, of all colors and races. Please know that me, Lucas, the guy who I'm not, you probably were like, I don't know, he cared that much about this. I'm not always going off about everything, okay? I'm not always going off about everything, but I'm tired of it. I am so tired. You don't know how I feel just walking down the street. If you don't know what it's like to be afraid of the people who are supposed to protect you, then you can't say anything other than to hopefully try to have empathy or have some conversations with people like me and try to learn. You feel safe when you see the police. I feel unsafe. How is that possible? How do we live in the same country and the superheroes look good to you? Superman flies and you're excited. Superman flies and I'm scared. How is that possible? But that is the reality, and I'm not playing. That is the reality. I don't know if any random person may be able to kill me, and that might be okay. Or the police who are there to protect me might kill me, and that might be okay. Someone might call the police on me because of nothing, which is going on all over our country as well, and that might be okay. It is not okay. And we have to say something about it, and we have to do something about it, and we have to help move this thing forward. I don't know. And I know some people are ready to give up because it's like, what else can we do? But we got to keep doing something. We got to keep talking. We got to keep sharing. We got to keep the conversation going. The next time you see an athlete kneeling, you better celebrate it. Because that athlete's knee is not on somebody's neck killing anybody. He's saying that he or she is saying that what is going on in this country is not okay, and I will not stand for it. That's what they're saying. I will not stand and celebrate it. You would not stand and celebrate a child molester. You would not stand and celebrate someone who was abusing their husband or their wife. You wouldn't stand and celebrate it just because somebody made a song and put a flag to it. You wouldn't celebrate that because if you knew the truth behind it, you'd be saying, that's crazy. I will not stand for that. That is what these athletes are saying. They're taking a knee. Give me a break. This man put his knee on that man's neck and killed him. And there are many pictures that say, if you're more outraged by Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, you're crazy. You're absolutely out of your mind. I'm going to show you guys a picture here real quick, and we're going to get to our guest today. Let me see if I can share this. This is a picture on social media. Shout out to my friend Hubert Carpenter who shared this post. Many people have shared this post. If you guys have seen this picture, it says, which knee bothers you more? Which knee bothers you more? This Colin Kaepernick, this man with an afro on the sideline taking a knee, or this police officer with his knee in this man's neck, literally killing this man. Which one bothers you more? I'm just curious. Which one bothers you more? If you don't know, you better think about that. Because the next time you see somebody taking a knee on a field, you have to know it's because of things like this. We're taking a knee because of these types of things. This is not the first time this has happened. It may be the first time it was caught on camera with somebody taking a knee like this, but we know it's been going on, whether it's a chokehold that's illegal, whether they're shooting and killing people, shooting men in the back, all these crazy coming in people's homes, shooting them, killing them. As police officers, we have to do something to stand up against this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that we're no longer going to stand for it. So if you don't see us standing for some stuff, just know it means because we're not standing for it any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys taking this time with me. Hello, everybody. Thank you guys for joining the show. We love you. We appreciate you here at Lucas Live. It is important that we take a minute to talk about the important issues that are going on in our country and in this world. And I can't apologize for it. I was going to say I'm sorry, but I can't apologize for it. We have to talk about it. And our guest was gracious enough to give me a little more time and say it was okay because she agrees that this is important. JJ Lilly, welcome to the show. Charles Boone, my good friend. I'm so grateful for you, Charles Boone. You guys make sure you're following Charles Boone on social media. He has done some special things to be able to offer some special prizes to our followers. So I'm going to be giving out information really soon on how you can win some Amazon gift cards given to us by the great Charles Boone and his business. I will be sharing more information with you guys about that really, really soon. Sharice Grantham, thank you so much for being here. Angela Hardesty, just to name a few people. I really appreciate you guys. Karen Stafford, Janelle Carpenter, my sister, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Black Lives Matter. It's sad, but people are saying we have to legalize being black. That is so sad, but so true. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. Today we have a guest, a friend of my wife and I, who started a business from a binder. She started a business from a binder, ladies and gentlemen. Started a business from a binder. I mean, what does that mean? She took her dream. The Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. She wrote down her visions, her dreams, what she wanted to do. And now she has a full-fledged business, a profitable business that she has created from that dream. I want to welcome to the show my friend, Brianna Pickens. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here today. So we started with some heavy stuff. We're going to transition here into talking about things. But before we transition, you and I talked about it a little bit earlier. Just if you could, and people are going to get to know you here and about your business, and I think you're going to inspire a lot of people to get started. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have a vision or a dream about a business, she's going to inspire you today to get started. She's sitting in her office. She's going to tell y'all about it. She got her whole office in there. She got it going on. She's doing her thing because she followed God and she moved forward with her vision and her dream. And she's going to tell you guys her story and tell you guys how you can do it too. But Bree, when you think about what's going on in our country, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, and we spoke prior to going live, and I'll say it again. I'm speechless. My heart is broken that this continues to be a repetitive conversation. Yeah. It is so sad. As I was listening to you, Lucas, like I had chills. And I am so sorry that you feel the way that you feel. Yeah. You have every right to feel that way. I'm sorry that you're fearful of law enforcement when they are supposed to serve and protect. I'm sorry that my husband feels that way, that my brother feels that way, that my cousins and my uncles. It is so sad. Yeah. It's to the point now where I get a little nervous too when we're in the car and, you know, we're driving on the highway and we see a sheriff or a police officer. And, you know, they're just guarding the streets and making sure we're doing the speed limit. But the fear that kind of just goes through my body briefly until we pass and look in the rearview mirror knowing that they're not following us. Right. Because I don't know if they are, what that moment could look like. It's sad that that is our reality. And I'm heartbroken, and I feel helpless, as you had mentioned during our conversation, because I'm a person who wants to take actionable steps towards anything that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. What is the plan? How are we going to take steps to get there? And I don't know what actionable steps we need to take to change this. And that is just my honest opinion. Yeah. That is just the reality. That is my perspective. I don't know. I get up every day and I fight to be a better Bree.
Yeah.
My husband is fighting to be a better person. We are good people. We
Yeah.
have good hearts, just like all of the other people in our community. There are good and bad people in all communities and all groups.
Yes.
This was not a bad person. I don't believe that. Nobody deserves to lose their life for any reason. And so I am saddened that we are here. The leadership in this country is sad. It breaks my heart. It's so disheartening.
Yes.
And that's just where I am. And I'm just going to continue to pray. But I also want some actionable steps.
Yes.
If anybody has a plan,
Yes.
I want to know what it is so that I can support it and get behind it, because I want to be a part of change. And that's what I'm trying to do here, at the Speech and Career Center.
I love that. I love that. And I think that leads us well into your story. Thank you. So well said. And we do need to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to come together on actionable steps, because just complaining isn't enough. We have to speak out. So speaking out is the first thing we can do. It's our first right? We have the freedom of speech, supposedly, right? We're supposed to be able to talk about it. So we do need to start the conversation. And then we need to come together and say, okay, well, what do we do next? Or what do we do if something like this happens to someone we know? Or hopefully they're not killed, but even if they are mistreated in any way or unfairly arrested or whatever it may be, we need to know what we can do. So, Bree, you're a person. If let's slow down a little bit. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Bree, you and I have known each other for some years now. I met you. You were a model. I don't know if you remember. You were a model. Used to be a model. Used to model.
Yeah.
Yes. You were a model at my wife's first fashion show. Maybe both of them, I don't remember. My wife first started making clothes. She called on her inner circle, her friends, to model in her show. She was like, I know people. I hope my friends will come out and support me. You were one of those people. Tell me a little bit about your background, how you met my wife, and your journey at the University of Akron.
Sure. So Corinne and I were former athletes at the University of Akron. So she was a part of the track team. I was a part of the volleyball team. And so that's how we were connected. I had other friends that were part of the track team. And so I would spend time with them. My best friend was a part of the team, Tamala. And so I would spend time with her teammates, my friend and her teammates. Right. And so that's how we became connected. And then, we were all just athletes. So we're one big happy family.
Right.
And so that's how I met her. And then we kind of just reconnected over the years. I think it was probably after I finished graduate school and started into my professional career. I can't remember the exact year when we kind of reconnected, but we've been connected for quite some time. And you guys have just been truly a blessing to me and my family. You've, given us some wise marriage counsel. Corinne has had personal conversations with me, about wifey life and things. And you guys have prayed for us. She has prayed for me and,
yes.
Our marriage and our family. And we're just blessed that you guys are a part of our lives. And
we appreciate you and your husband and the connection that we all have, and we know we're in support of each other, and that's the key to community, right? If we're gonna kind of end the ills of our communities at every level, we have to come together and be unified and support each other, support marriage, support families. Now, your business does something to support people. Let's start talking a little bit about your business. What do you do in your business? And then we'll rewind back a little bit and talk about the journey to building your business. So tell us a little about it.
Sure. So I am a speech language pathologist. I have been a therapist for 9 years now, getting close to 10.
Wow, almost at that 10.
It's been quite the journey. It's been amazing. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm finally to the point where I feel really confident in my skill set, in my craft. And so been a therapist for almost 10 years now. I founded and own a private practice in the Easton area of Columbus, Ohio, called the Speech and Career Center. It's a pediatric private practice. We diagnose, evaluate, and treat children with communication delays and disorders. So I serve about 40 families out of my office. We also have contracts with schools. I have partnerships in the community with early learning centers. I have connections with, I offer services through Help Me Grow. So I have quite a bit of work that I'm doing for my community. it's wonderful. It's fantastic. And we're just continuing to grow. I do have a small team. I have an accountant. I have a biller now, an insurance biller, because we are in network with several insurance companies. So yeah, and I also have some therapists who help me in the school, and also right now not in the office, but via teletherapy due to the pandemic. So yeah.
That's awesome. Shout out to Sharice Grantham. She's one of our loyal followers. She said, I need her number. She said, I already need her number. She's already ready to reach out.
I'm here to help.
Sharice, make sure if you can't get to her through social media or other means, you just reach out to me, Sharice. You know you can do that, and I'll make sure I get you her number. I get you direct access. Okay.
Please do.
That's what it's all about.
I'm here to serve.
That's awesome. Someone said, help me grow was awesome. Her son has Down syndrome, so that was very helpful to her. So this is an important thing. So shout out to the parents on here who have dealt with some delays or some issues with their children, and we know that comes in many levels. So Bree, tell us a little bit about why this work. Like this is a different field. I don't think it's the thing they open up to in the book when you go to college and they're like, speak to pathology and you're going to do this and you're going to go. And what do you do with it? Do you need your doctorate in it? How did you decide to get into this? And then how did you decide to start your own practice?
Sure. So when I initially started into college, I thought I was going to be a nurse. And when that didn't work out, I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to really do some career exploration and figure out. I was like in the career office taking surveys. I can remember it was probably the beginning of my sophomore year, and I was stressed. It was like a moment for me. You know, I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I have no idea. I remember speaking with my mom, and one day she called me up and she said, Bree, you should check out speech language pathology. At the time, so she's a nurse and she worked in rehab and she worked directly with speech therapists. She said, I work with some therapists. They really seem to like what they do. You should check it out. So I remember I started to do my research right away. I enrolled in my first course, my sophomore year. It was called Intro to Communication Disorders. And I fell in love. And it was a really nice course because it was an intro, just an introduction of the field of speech language pathology and what a career would look like and what type of work I would be doing. And I fell in love, and I have been committed to the field ever since. And so I went through 4 years, of course, of undergrad. I received my Bachelor of Arts in Speech Language Pathology. And then I went on to complete my graduate degree because you do have to have a master's to practice.
Okay.
I went on to receive my graduate degree also at the University of Akron. So I finished in August of 2012. And then I started my career in Cincinnati, Ohio. I worked for, and at the time I would say, prior to now I would say, and ironically, I worked for a private practice in Cincinnati, Ohio. That was my first job. And my boss's name was Bree.
Wow. What are the chances of that? How did that happen?
I know. So I used to say, oh, what a coincidence. Oh, it's so ironic. No, it was so intentional and designed by God. He really has a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a character. And
absolutely.
So he just kind of placed me in a setting like, this is going to be you soon. You just don't know it. So,
that's amazing.
And it was an amazing time. You know, so I spent 2 years there. I was on a huge learning curve. I worked in a lot of settings there. She had contracts with schools and skilled nursing facilities. So I primarily worked in the school setting. And then on summer breaks and vacations, I would work in our outpatient clinic. And then I also worked in, over the summer, our skilled nursing facilities. I even did some home health. So I was getting quite a bit of experience right out of graduate school. So it was really good. You know, so I spent 2 years there. Bree was wonderful. I really learned a lot under her. I can remember I would have to work some evenings. This was, you know, pre-wife, you know, pre-kids. I was fresh into my career, a young adult.
Right.
And I can remember sitting in the office downstairs. I was waiting on my 6 o'clock client, and I was sitting there, I'm waiting, and I was like one of the last ones in the office. So I'm looking at my clock. I'm like, yeah, I will never own a practice because I can't do these late nights. Like this
cannot be my problem. This cannot be my problem.
I'm not gonna be in this office all night, so I'll never own a practice. And I had said it, you know, and that was that. And I think I know at the time God was chuckling, like, "Girl, you just don't even know." And so,
wow.
So then, if we keep going, so fast forward 2 years, I wanted a change. I really like the school setting. Schools are my passion. I love working in the schools. I love everything about them. And I wanted to work in them full time. And I missed my summer breaks. And, because here I was working full time, all year round.
So
Like,
you
this was
love
new to
schools
me.
because you love the summer breaks. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I love the schools because, they got springs off, summers off, Christmas off. Is that what it really was? Tell us the truth. You like the kids too,
Look,
I think.
it was a nice bonus.
Oh, okay. All right. It was extra.
Very nice bonus. And
Right.
so it was just time to transition. She was a small practice at the time. Now she's really big, but at the time she was a small practice and couldn't offer me the benefits that I was looking for. So it was really just time to find something that could just pour into retirement and things of that nature. So the opportunity presented itself, and I landed a job with a large suburban school district here in Columbus, Pickerington Schools. I don't mind saying it because I still love the district and I miss them, and I still
Beautiful
consider
area,
them
Pickerington.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a really nice area. So I worked there for 4 years, and I should say also, during this time when I started into my career, it was probably like 2 months in, and I got really uncomfortable. I didn't understand what it was. I remember calling my mom and I said, so am I supposed to work for the next 35, 40 years?
Is that how this works?
And she's like, is that seriously? I'm like, is this it? And, because I worked 6 years. I worked really hard, and I don't understand why I'm getting this feeling. And, like most people would say, she said, yeah, welcome to the real world. And she's right. That is. And there's nothing wrong with being committed to a job for 30, 40 years. Right. It just shows your level of commitment and consistency. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. I just knew that I had a feeling and I couldn't shake it. But I had to put my head down, and I had a lot to learn in the field. So time went on. I transitioned to Pickerington Schools. I was very busy. I started coaching. As I mentioned, I played volleyball. So volleyball is one of my passions. I love that sport. I still play today. And so I started coaching, and I was learning a new job. And I went from having a small caseload in the schools of about 40 to 50 kids to a caseload of almost 80.
Wow.
So it was a huge transition, lots to learn. The workload grew just as much as the caseload grew. And I was in this new, big, beautiful building. They had their own systems and ways of doing things, and I had a lot to learn. So I was doing that and coaching. So, as you can imagine, I was very, very busy.
Right.
Well, about 2 years in, that feeling that I talked about came back. It came back, and there it was. The feeling, I describe it as like a churning kind of like a void. Something is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just in the pit of my stomach, and I said, "No, I'm in the school.
Things are good. This is what people work for."
Yeah.
Right.
Summer vacations.
Right.
I'm like laying out at the pool in the summertime. All my friends are at work. Like,
you still getting paid? You're living the life. What are you doing?
I'm still getting paid. Yes.
Right.
So, but the feeling was still there, and so I had to begin addressing this feeling. And I'm a God girl. I love me some Jesus, and I knew I had to go to God about this. What is this? I began to journal. I began to pray. I began to vent, talking about, to God, what is this? Why am I feeling this way? Is there more that you have for me to do? What is it? I'm not, just vomiting in my journal,
Right.
pouring my heart out at his feet. And I continued to do that. Well, the feeling started to increase because I journaled, and then I kept going. Then I became the advisor of our Black History program. So now I'm even more busy. I'm doing that. But the feeling came on back. And at this point, it was very, very strong. So strong, one day I had a student teacher too. I would usually eat my lunch with her and we talk and everything. Well, this day I had to leave the office. So I left her in my office. I went to my car, and I remember closing the door, and I said out loud, God, I don't know what else you want me to do. What is it? What is it? I'm a speech therapist, and I love volleyball. I don't know what else you want me to do. Do you want me to start my own team, a club? What is it? Right. And so again, I had to go back. At this point, I really had to. I read a book called The Purpose Room by Heather Lindsay. I read that book. I kept journaling. I was praying. I was fasting. I was worshiping. Like, right. I needed whatever it is that you want me to do, I needed to know what it was because this feeling was just uncomfortable.
So just to slow it down so that
Sure.
we catch this, everybody, there's a feeling of dis-ease, right? And we say we have diseases when we're sick. Sometimes we have feelings in our life of dis-ease. We don't have peace in our life. And that disease, that dis-ease is often God trying to shift something in our life. And we're not always ready for it. We don't always understand it. Sometimes we go to people, and I think what you did with your mom was you went to your mom to tell you an answer you already knew. Like, just tell me this is normal and tell me to get over myself, right? Like, is this how it is? You're like, yeah, that's how it is. You're like, okay, let me go back out here and try to handle it and be okay. The world is changing fast, ladies and gentlemen. I am such an advocate. This show is about education, motivation, liberation. I want people to be set free. I am tired of us living by rules that don't really exist. I'm tired of us thinking that there's only one way to do life. Like when we think about the American system of the way the world works and us working in what Seth Godin in the book Lynchpin, he would call factories. He would say working in a school is a factory. Working in a hospital is a factory. They're all factories because they're just a system of doing the same thing. God is trying to shake us up and get people out of the factory, this one way of doing things, and get us to do something creative because God is a creator. So he puts creativity in his people. And I don't think he was mad that we created assembly lines and people did one monotonous job. But I think at some point God was like, all right, creation, I created you to do more. And he said, we were going to do greater works than he did, right? Christ said, we're going to do greater works than he did. So he wanted us to shift us into a level of creativity. Somebody right now has dis-ease at their job and you feel compelled to make a change. And this coronavirus thing has shifted you a little bit and you're starting to wake up to it, but you're afraid. It's your fear that won't allow you to step forward. So Bree, continue to tell us. So as you're feeling this, how did you start to overcome the dis-ease, the fear? You said you're praying, you're fasting. What helped shift it for you, and how did you start to gain some clarity?
Well, I had to seek him. That's what, all those things I mentioned, I had to seek him. And some people, I'm not sure where your relationship is with God. Wherever it is, it's okay. He will lead you and guide you. So if you don't understand that term, well, what do you mean to seek him? Well, what I did practically was I started to dive more into my word. I started to pray. I was journaling. I was venting to him. I was talking out loud to him. I read the book, The Purpose Room by Heather Lindsay. She talks so much about purpose. And I, at the end of the book, we have to wait. We just have to wait. That's all I'll tell you about the book.
Right.
It's good. And so I read the book and I'm like, okay. And then she says, now wait, close it and wait.
Wow.
Now wait. And that's what I had to do. And the Bible says to wait patiently for the Lord.
Yes.
Be strong and courageous and wait patiently. And so I did all those things and I had to wait with expectancy.
Yes.
That God is going to reveal to me. And when I wasn't thinking about it, I wasn't praying on it anymore. I was just waiting. He woke me up in the middle of the night. I remember I was just woken up and I had all these thoughts. And I used to say, and something said, write it down. Well, now that I am where I am in my relationship, that something is the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And the Holy Spirit told me to write it down. So I picked up my phone, grab your phone and write it down. That's exactly what I heard. And I did that. And then I started to write down these thoughts. Now, it was kind of vague. It was random thoughts. I wrote down, I saw a classroom, a program. I started to write down, children, speech therapy, of course, functional communication. Am I going to start a school? I don't know, So I'm just writing that. I wrote down names of people that came to mind that could help me with this idea, this vision. Now, I wrote all of this down, and it was still very vague, but the unveilings began to happen. But there was more that had to occur,
yes.
More that God had to reveal. So I said, okay, God. So then I went back to God. So once you start getting some ideas, some visions, some blurs of things, dreams, don't just hang out. Like, you got to keep seeking. Okay, God, I need clarity. And so that's what I did. I said, well, I need some clarity. Like, what do you want me to do with this? I'm not exactly sure. Am I starting a program, a school? Who's going to be a principal of this school? If it's a school, like, what's happening here?
Right.
So again, I started to do those same things, praying, fasting, journaling, just waiting. And then I remember I was driving in my car past Starbucks on Morse Crossing Road. I'll never forget it. I was driving. Morse Crossing Road was to my right. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, start a private practice.
Wait, Bree, something said. Was it something? It was just something said. Everybody say something
And
said, right?
something
It
said,
wasn't just something.
something
You
said,
gonna call it out and call it the Holy Spirit.
I'm gonna call it what it is,
Okay.
and the Holy Spirit said, start a private practice. And I thought, whoa, no, you remember, God, I said, what was this now? 4 or 5 years ago,
Right.
I was not going to start a private practice. And so I knew that wasn't my thought. Because remember, I told you that I'd already said I wasn't going to start one. And so, but, when you're given instructions, you have to be obedient. That's
Yeah.
very, very important. That is a biblical principle. You must be obedient.
Yes.
You must follow instructions. And, I didn't have all of the answers. I didn't know how I was even going to do this. But that's why it was so important for me to stay connected to God on this journey, because this was new. Start a what? How? I never wanted to start a business or had a desire to. I mean, it was something I had never been introduced to.
Right.
And so, long story short, at this point, I started to pray for wisdom. Well, what's the first step? What should I do? And I just started to do research. And as I started to do research, I came across some private practice gurus within my field, and I started to study them and follow them and purchase their courses and webinars and things. And they got me started on my journey of how to start a private practice. They walked me step by step on how to do it. And so that's how it began to come to life. And so, here's I told you, binder to brick and mortar. This is the binder. It's so thick.
I love it.
There's so much in here. And I organize this. This is how
So
I
tell
do
them, now
life.
listen, whoa. You said binder to
Yeah.
brick and mortar. You
Uh-huh.
said it to me, and they're like, it's like the audience is watching our conversation. What does that mean to you? What is binder to brick and mortar? What is that?
Sure. So it was the vision that God gave me. It was the God dream. I call it a God idea that He gave me.
It wasn't,
And
it wasn't a good idea?
It wasn't a good idea.
Okay. All right. I like that.
It was a God idea.
Right.
It was God's dream for me. It's God's dream for His people.
Whoa. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to keep interrupting. First of all,
It's okay.
ladies and gentlemen, type God idea in the comments if you just
God
caught
idea.
that. Type God idea or type I want a God idea. If you're looking for something, a God idea. So it's not just a good idea. A lot of people have a lot of good ideas that don't become anything. But if you birth a God idea, you're giving birth to Mary birthed what God put in her. God was not done putting things in His people to give birth to. We just don't recognize it for some reason. I don't know if the angel doesn't come down fast enough, or the Holy Spirit ain't talking loud enough, or we're not tuned into that station. But it wasn't just a good idea. It was a God idea, and you had to act on it. So the angel of the Lord came to you and clearly stood in front of you with a sword of fire and told you what to do. Or what? You said you were just listening to the voice of God. You were tuning into His station. Tell them again how you were tuning into His station. What were you doing laying at the feet of God? What are you talking, Bree? Stop all this church talk. What does that mean? Laying at the feet of God. People are confused here. What is that?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to confuse nobody. Listen, I said, it was me spending time with Him.
Yeah.
Getting it. I had, I remember in my apartment in Worthington, I had a small, just a prayer corner. It was my prayer corner. It was where I went to spend time with God. And I had my Bible there. My journals were there, my highlighters and my pencils and all my fancy markers and all that.
Right.
And that is where I spent time with Him. I would turn on my, my music. At the time I had Pandora, turn on my
Right.
music, and I just would just worship and, desire to just be in His presence.
Yeah.
And I would invite Him in. And it wasn't all, it was just my time with Him. Everybody's time looks different. And mine was in that little prayer corner. I had a little lamp.
Uh-huh.
I would have a little lamp over there. And sometimes I would just hang out there, and journal. Other times I would lean up against the wall and, type notes in my phone. I still have notes in my phone that I just pouring out to God.
Wow.
Around the time before He gave me the vision. But it was coming. But the only reason that it came was because I was seeking God. I was going to His feet. I was going into His presence to say, what is this feeling? What more do you want me to do? I don't know. And you know what? I was supposed to be at Pickerington. Pickerington was my training ground. It was my training ground. Because my caseload was so large and so diverse, I was working with kids from kids who had multiple disabilities and different developmental disabilities, such as autism, Down syndrome, severe intellectual disabilities, all the way to kids who had typically developing but had learning disorders. They just had struggled to learn. And I was also working with kids who were sitting in AP courses but were struggling through and trying to get through a speech disorder, like a fluency disorder. So my caseload was very, very diverse. It was what we call cross-categorical. And so I was able to gain a lot of experience. So that was my training ground. I learned systems. I learned how to write. I learned how to sit in meetings, large meetings, and present to families in a way that they can understand it. But I'm also presenting to my colleagues so that they can understand information. I was constantly having to change my jargon so that parents could understand it, and then use jargon that my colleagues understood.
Wow.
So it was my training ground. So I was supposed to be there. So your audience should know that where they are right now, they are supposed to be there. It is preparing them for something greater, something more, another position, another level. And that's what Pickerington did for me. It was full of resources. It was just a great place to work. I had 2 iPads, a laptop. I mean, you name it.
You were armed for success.
I was armed and ready to be the best speech therapist ever. And so God was using that time to prepare me. But he also kept the void there because I thought I was going to retire from Pickerington. I was okay with that. There are people who retire from there. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, that's what I thought my plans were. But God's plans, only his plans will prevail. And it says that in the good book.
I love that. So real quick, so help us. I think it's really, really cool that you first encourage the audience, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, wherever you're at, thank you for being here. Shout out to everybody who's here. Lanice Williams, I have to shout you out, has been doing therapy with children for many years, amongst other things that she does. She's on here and celebrating it. Shout out to Damon Thomas, Janelle Carpenter, everybody, everybody else. Miss Moore, I was almost said her name wrong. I don't want to. Derek Curry, my friend. Thank you guys so much. Dave Woods, appreciate you guys being here. I wanted to thank you guys again. Please share this broadcast. It's not too late to share it. Please keep hitting those hearts and those likes. If you're watching this by replay, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We want you to get something out of this. Education, motivation, liberation. That's every day. That's what we do here on Lucas Live. To the Lucas Live audience, to the Inner Circle, shout out to everybody in the Inner Circle. And if you haven't joined the Inner Circle yet, make sure you join the Inner Circle by texting Lucas Live, all one word, to 31996. There are some special things coming your way soon. So make sure you text Lucas Live to 31996. Also, we want to shout out to our sponsor real quick, Health Matching Account at healthmatchsave.com. If you notice, that website has changed, but you guys, I want you to go to Health Match Save. Made it a little easier, right? Health Match Save, Health Match Save, healthmatchsave.com. Type that in exactly the way you see it and check out the pricing for Health Matching Account. Helping people to save money for medical expenses, making sure they're able to double their dollar for medical expenses. It's an amazing, amazing program. There's a lot of people who don't know much about it or haven't heard of it, and they're going to wish they had. They're going to wish they started sooner because you're able to save money and have your dollars that you're saving doubled over a period of several months, where you will have more buying power when you go to the doctor, when you go get that procedure done, when you get your kids those braces or whatever it is that you need or they need, or even elective procedures that you just want. Check out Health Match Savings, healthmatchsave.com. And if you want more information, reach out to me directly. I can get you hooked up. So thank you guys again. Lester Sanders, thank you for jumping in. We look forward to continuing to do great work with you as well, and the great things that you're doing to help youth also. So Bree, back to, you were telling us that maybe where you're at is where you're supposed to be. Okay, now help us with timing, because first we talked about, getting out of the place that you're in. Maybe you may have a bigger dream, it may be a God idea and all that. And then you just, some people might have felt like, whoa, wait, now she said where I am is where I'm supposed to be. Now I'm kind of worried because I have that uneasy feeling that she had. Help us understand, how do people start to discern the timing of maybe where they are is where they were supposed to be, but it's time to shift, or where they are is where they are supposed to be for another season until the shift? How, or maybe They're just supposed to stay there. Help us understand from your perspective, how do they discern that?
So for me, it was that feeling. I and I have been talking to my pastor back home about this, just trying to gain more language to understand my feelings spiritually. And he referred to it as, Pastor CJ, shout out, New Jerusalem. He referred to it as a Holy Unction. And he said, you have to respond to it.
Yeah.
It's just like a feeling, an unction, you've got to respond to it. And so that's really what I've been doing. I've been following that feeling. And so once I had the feeling, if you ignore it, it'll just stay there. So you have to address it.
Yeah.
And you address it by going to God and talking to him about it. And you can be raw with your feelings. That's why I encourage you to journal. Yeah. If you got to type it out in your notes on your phone, type it out on your computer, write it. I like to just write it out in my journal. Do that. Talk it out, cry it out. I've done all of the above. Yeah. And as you do that, see, he needs to know that you're seeking him, that you can't get to your purpose outside of him. Seeking him acknowledges him, that you need him to get there. And so once I did that, he said, okay, it's time, because it's his timing, not mine. It's time to reveal. And again, it started off as just visions, thoughts, pictures, and I just wrote them down. Then I had to go back to him for clarity. I had to go back to him. I need clear instructions because I'm not sure. I wrote this down, but what exactly do you want me to do with this? Then I got very clear instructions, start a private practice.
Wow.
Then I started to do some research. See, and once you get the instructions, it's easy to say, because I didn't know how to start a private practice. So it's easy. I could have dismissed it and said, well, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that.
That's so important.
I can't do that.
Yes.
We don't miss it.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. When you're given instructions, you follow them. And if you're not sure what to do, you pray for wisdom.
Yes.
You pray for wisdom. We serve a mighty, amazing God, but I also know that he's practical. You got to show me how to do this.
Right.
And he will do that. And that's what he's been doing on my journey.
Yeah.
And so once I got the feeling, once I got the vision, I was still working. I didn't quit my job or anything.
Right.
I just started to do research. I found the private practice gurus. I started to purchase their products, their webinars, everything that I needed. I was just following them. I'm part of an amazing Facebook group that has been extremely supportive. Yeah. And so I did all those things, and God was connecting me to those communities. It was a national community on Facebook that then led me to a local community of other fellow private practice owners here in Columbus, Ohio. So, that was one of the things that I was worried about, and, leaving my job and not having a community, but God works out all those details. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
So I started to do my research and everything. And then I figured out colors and what was the name of my practice going to be and how would I structure. I had to, do I become a business? Yeah, it came down to it. I had to become a business and all of those things. So I followed all of those details and steps. And then I became the Speech and Career Center. And inside of here, is my, my certification. I put that in here, along with so many other things, my insurance credentialing, everything's in there. And I started to just work on the business, building it. How do I start it? What should I do? Who am I? The first thing I did was a market analysis too. After getting my logo and things, a market analysis. I was sitting on my bed, Lucas, and I said, okay, God, where am I going to start the private practice? Like, where is it going to be?
Right.
You got to do a market analysis. I heard that through my research and through following the gurus.
Right.
And so I said, okay, so I'm literally, and I'm not into maps and all that, north, south, east. That is,
like, where am I at?
It's up the street.
Right.
Go that way.
Make 3 lefts. That's it. That's all I know.
So I'm on Google, looking around. I'm researching all of the private practices in the area, figuring out exactly where they were located. And as I was doing that, I remember God saying, I've placed you where the need is. Now, I should also say that my husband and I bought a house. We closed on December 23rd of 2016. Wow. God gave me the vision on January 23rd of 2017.
Wow.
And I never connected the 23rd until 2 weeks prior to my event last week, Binder to Brick and Mortar, as I was preparing and planning, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
why does it things keep happening on the 23rd?
Mm.
My daughter's due date was January 23rd of 2018. And so, but she was born on January 20th.
Uh-huh.
But that 23rd,
Right,
like,
keeps coming up. You're like, what is this, God?
Yeah,
What are you
and I
saying?
haven't figured it all out, but
Right.
that he likes that number for
That's
some reason
amazing.
with our story, and
Yeah.
so keeps doing things on that day. And so kept building the business, continued to grow, started to connect with people. I got really excited about it. And one thing about me, I have a type A personality. So, and I'm also a former athlete.
So you drive, you get things done, you put in the work.
You get stuff done,
Yeah.
you put in the work, you get it done. Ain't no waiting. And if you stop, you gonna start over.
Right.
That was how I was trained. I was trained
Right.
that way. And my coaches used to tell me, I'm also preparing you for life. You just might not realize it yet.
Wow.
And they were so right.
Yeah.
Athletics prepared me for this business because it has been grind. When I say grind, like I've been working hard. I do have to work like it depends on me, but I pray like it's all dependent on God.
I almost cut you off. I almost cut because I know that saying. That is so good.
I know.
Work like it depends on you. Pray like it depends on God.
Yeah, and I know people have heard those things, like I've heard that before. I've maybe done that before. No, you got to do it.
Yes.
You've heard it because it's truth.
Yes.
It's truth, and you got to do it. You got to work like it depends on you, and pray like it depends on God.
I love
and He will show up in miraculous ways, and that's what He's been doing here on our journey together.
Yeah, that's so great. We're gonna go to a segment. We have a little less than 10 minutes left of the show, and we want to talk a little bit deeper. So we're gonna go to a segment we call A Closer Look. So welcome to A Closer Look, ladies and gentlemen. Bree, so tell us now. I want to hear something. I want to hear about a fear that you had and a fear that you have when it comes to your business. It is great to hear the success, but a lot of times we don't hear about the fears that people had as they went through it. And so someone else is sitting in the seat of fear right now, and they're thinking she was an athlete and she had this mindset and she knew Jesus really well and He had favor on her, and that's why she is where she is. But you obviously had fears, and I'm curious if there's anything that at times now that you're fearful of as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I'll say one of the fears I had was leaving my job.
Yeah.
Again, He didn't tell me to leave right away, but after 4 years, so I had my daughter in January of 2018, and I took an extended maternity leave. While I was on maternity leave, I was still building and working my business. Well, I had earned some partnerships during that time and was building some connections. I went back to work for about 30 days, and then we were on summer break. So I knew I was going to spend the summer working. And I had that feeling. It came back like, maybe leaving my job. I might, possibly, could I? Should I? What? So I started to think about that, and that's fearful. I mean, like I said, my job was amazing. I had great benefits. I was getting a raise every year. I had a laptop, 2 iPads. These were Apple products, I should say. So, I had a plethora of resources in my office. I had a community of therapists that I was connected to. I mean, it was hard work, but it was so good. And so to the thought of leaving that, I contribute to my household just as my husband does. And so the thought of leaving that was scary. But once I left for the summer break, that feeling came back, and I had to go back to what I told you in the beginning: praying, seeking, talking to God, getting prayer from, prayer warriors at church. And so I knew it. And I remember one prayer warrior told me, she's like, I think you know your answer. But I'm going to pray for you, because I had gave her this whole spiel.
Yeah.
She's like, I think you have your answer, but I'm going to pray for you.
Right.
And so and it was taking a leap. And that's what you have to do when you're following God ideas. You have to step out on faith.
Yes.
And no, it's not, to me, it's not a risk. It's stepping out on faith.
Yes.
You have to trust God, and that's what I had to do. And so when, the Holy Spirit prompted me and said, turn in that quit day letter, that's what I did. Wow. I did. And you know what? They filled that position within 2 weeks of me quitting. The position was filled before I went to clean out my office.
Wow.
Now, prior to that, I didn't just quit. It was an informed decision to a degree. I
Right.
talked to my husband. I had his blessing. I went to the whiteboard writing out all of my income and how this worked. And I'll say I took more than a 50% pay cut.
Wow.
Leaving my job, lost all my benefits. I was just walking away from all of it, walking away from a community. I mean, it was a lot. That was scary, but I had to trust God, and I had to take a leap. And when I did, the blessings flowed. I mean, he just poured out. And was it still hard work? Absolutely. I mean, we had some struggling times, some very hard times.
That's important to talk about. I think people always think it was all smooth from point A to point B was all good. There were days that things were tight and you wondered and you worried.
Yeah, the finances were tight. I know people don't really want to talk about that, and that's uncomfortable. But I vowed to be very transparent about my journey, and it was tight financially. It was a struggle. The expenses were leaving my account faster than the revenue was coming in. And not only did I have personal expenses, I had now business expenses. So it was a lot, but God always came through. His timing was always perfect. It didn't always feel like, if we can just be honest, it didn't always feel like perfect timing. Like, come on. But when he showed up, it was perfect.
Isn't God like that? It's amazing because we say his timing is not our timing and all this stuff. And we often think God is late because we are impatient children generally. And especially when it's even harder when you know you're walking in the direction that God told you to walk, but you're not getting to your promised land fast enough. You're like, you told me to get out here. What am I doing out here? I quit my job. I did everything. I'm doing this because you told me to do it. I would have retired from the school, God. How did you deal with those feelings of, wait a minute, did I make a mistake? I'm out here in the middle of the street and I can't go back. It's too far to go. I don't know if I should just keep going forward or go back. How did you deal with those feelings?
I had to be very, very consistent and faithful to my journey with God. And I know I keep going back there, but I have to, because I'm telling you, that is what I did. I was faithful to getting in my word. I'm in my word more now than I ever have been. And my journey and my relationship with him is much more consistent now than it has been. But I had to, because I'm on this journey and it's scary. Like, there's no way. And there were times they call my phone all the time about jobs. They text me, I can go get a job tomorrow if I wanted to. That's the beauty of my field. It's so diverse and there's such a need. And there were times when I wanted to do that. But I know if I did that, there would be no grace there. There would be no grace there because God didn't tell me to do that. There were times where I said, I'm just going to go pick up a little side job at Target. We can get a discount and it'll help bring in a little bit more money. And I'm like, well, where am I going to do this? I'm a mom now. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner. I'm going to just try. And there was the Holy Spirit's like, I didn't tell you to do that.
Right. Here you go again. Scared.
There you go again. So there were times when I did want to find my own plan. But had I pursued that, there would be no grace there. Because God didn't tell me to do that. Why would he hang out there with me?
Yeah. That's so good. We get out there, we get scared. We start changing the plan, mid-plan. We start looking back at Egypt. We start thinking about maybe what else we could do. We start building our own altars, our own gods. We start doing the things that we read about in the Bible, and we read those things like those are old stories, but we all do it. We get to those points where God will understand. And will he understand? Sure, he'll understand, but we're often delaying our own blessing. If you go work at Target, you're slowing down the time and energy you could be putting into your purpose and what God had for you. And sometimes God loves when his children are dependent on daily bread.
Daily bread.
We go to him, right? When that's all you got and you don't know how you're going to pay this bill or that bill or what's going to happen, you depend on him daily, so we go to him daily.
Daily manna.
Not the worst place to be, right? Not the worst place to be.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And so there were times where I wanted to go back or change the course, but you can't do it. You have to understand that when God gives you a purpose, it is connected to the prayers of of his people.
Yeah.
That is why he placed the vision, the idea, the gift, the skill inside of you, because it's intended to bless his people.
Yes.
There have been so many families that have told me, you are a godsend. I have prayed for a therapist to help my child.
Yes.
And you know what? I want to pay for services for 3 months.
Wow.
I know the price based on your rate, but if you could go and do the math, we will write you a check next week.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I went to my car like,
wait, what?
I'm crunching the numbers. Like, the mom even, she texted me over the weekend. She said, did you figure out that number yet? We're ready to pay. And sure enough, I shared the number with her. She wrote that check in front of me and said, you are a godsend. You are such a blessing to my child. I see how much progress he's making. I value the services that you are rendering here.
Yes.
And when this runs out, we'll have more. And we will do 3 times a week of therapy until he has mastered these goals and he no longer needs your service. He's not on my caseload anymore. Glory to God.
He's doing great. Okay. I was going to say, if people are on your caseload forever, you might not. No, that's great. You're working it out. So, Bree, before we go, I would love to hear a little bit to the parents out there, the grandparents out there, the families out there, when they're looking at child development and some things that they can look for. Just a few minutes, help us understand number one. What are some signs maybe that there could be some type of delay, maybe in speech or something else? And then what are some things that people can do? When should they reach out to someone like you?
Sure. So just a few red flags. If your child, kiddos should, I'm going to back up and let's talk about speech and language development really quick, and then we'll talk about those red flags. Okay. So by 12 months, your child should have 1 to 2 words, maybe 3 that they're using. Some of those words are usually like mama, baba, dad. It could be like a name of a sibling, but they have some few words that they're using by 12 months. At that point, your baby should be, lots of cooing and babbling and, smiles and responding.
This is at 12 months?
At 12 months.
Okay.
At 12 months.
Yep.
And even before that, we're getting the cooing, the babbling, the smiles, the peekaboos,
right.
And they're putting their hands up and clapping and, they're imitating skills. You should see that. And then once we get to about 18 months, 10 to 20 words your child should have. And they should be following some simple commands. Where's your bottle? Go get your baba. Where's your truck? Where's your truck? Beep, beep. Vroom, vroom. They should go and get that truck. Throw this in the trash. Go put this in the trash for mama. And they're running to the trash and throwing away. So they should be following some simple commands as well. They should be able to identify body parts. They should be able to identify.
This is at 18 months now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And even before at 18 months, we definitely want to see it. But it'll start to come in, 13, 14, 15 months. You'll start to see those skills begin to emerge. Mm-hmm. They're pointing to body parts and you're starting to hear more words and imitations and approximations for words. By 2 years of age, a child should have, and this is minimum, 50 words. They also begin stringing together 2 words. 2 words. So, bye, dad.
Okay.
More milk. Cookie, please. You start to hear them string together more words. Now, a lot of 2-year-olds have more than 50.
Sure.
But at minimum, they should have 50 words.
How do you know that they got you like 1, 2, say something else, 3, 4, say something else, 6, 7.
I know.
So how do you get a feel for that?
Well, I always tell families, write them down, track it. But you should they just start learning new words every day.
Yeah, so you just start jotting down, noticing, wow, they said this today, that today. A lot of times we get to like dad, mama, baba, they talk and they're a genius. My baby's ahead of everybody, right? And everybody thinks that. And I think there's a sense of we all have pride in our child's progress, but we don't always know the markers. We don't always know when those milestones should hit. So we're like celebrating our kid. We're like, my 5-year-old can use a spoon. And you be sitting there thinking, that's not where they should be. But right. I don't know because this is my child. And, this is how it took us a while to get here. But it's important for us to know that, right? To know those milestones so we can
and that's why
know if there's a delay.
I'm glad you're asking these questions. That's really, really important.
Yeah.
At 3, a child should have at least 200 words. They have more. A lot of 3-year-olds have more. And at 3, they're now stringing together 3 to 4 words. I want a cookie, mommy. it's time to go bye-bye. You're starting to hear more phrases and simple sentences. You're able to communicate with them back and forth. So there's that turn taking in the conversation. They're reciprocating the conversation. They desire to have interactions with you and their siblings and their peers. So some red flags is if your child has no words by 12 months. If we're getting to 13, 14 months and you don't hear words coming in, that is a red flag. If your child is not imitating action, so if I touch my nose, your baby should be touching their nose. If I go, then that baby, you should start to see that. If I clap my hands, you clap your hands, your baby should then be clapping your hands. So if they're not imitating actions, if they're not following simple directives by 15 months, if they're not pointing out body parts, if they don't have a desire to engage with you, if you're not seeing eye contact, they're not following those directions, you don't see their language growing, it is not because they are a baby. While they are babies, they should be meeting communication milestones. Okay. And if for any reason you have a concern, you have a question, you kind of get that scratch your head moment, you kind of, you need to respond to that. Yes. And it can be as simply as connecting with the speech language pathologist. Yes. Just Google, you can do a simple Google search if you're not aware of the private practices in your area, or call your child's pediatrician.
And does insurance usually cover that service?
A lot of insurance plans do cover. Okay. A lot of them do. Mm-hmm. Now, you always have to, just like any other service, you want to call and the practice that you're working with, yes, just like the doctor's office
if they're
does,
in network, out of network, and all those things. Yes.
Yeah, the billing department is going to confirm whether or not it's a covered service under your plan. And if not, they'll go over other funding options with you. Okay. So it's really, really important that if you have questions, don't wait. I always tell families, we do not follow the wait and see approach. We ain't got time for that.
Right.
There are milestones that our children should be meeting. And if they're not meeting them and we wait and see, we're widening the gap between where they are and where their peers are. And then the longer we wait, the harder the families have to work, the harder the professionals like myself have to work, the harder the educators have to work, because our goal is to always close the gap as much as we can, right? And equip them with the communication skills that they need to be successful, to convey their thoughts and their needs and have meaningful interactions with their families. So it's really, really important that we don't wait. We can just do a quick consult and then we'll say your child is on track, or we do have concerns. Let's bring them in for an evaluation to find out what's going on. That's
really, really good. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys who are here with us live, and those who are watching the replay. Lucas Live is approximately an hour show, but sometimes we go a little over. There's some really good information. There's a couple, one statement that I want to address here in our comments, and then one really good question, Bree, that I want you to ask. Shout out to one of our loyal fans, Angela Hardesty. Her child has some delays. She said this makes her sad because her little guy is almost 6 and does not talk at all. I believe she said she's used Help Me Grow and some other things, but you would certainly recommend that she continue to seek services, continue to do the work, and do all that she can to help her child find ways of communication, even if he's not able to speak. Is that what you would say?
Absolutely. We don't give up. And I'm not sure if she's currently connected with any services. I'm not sure what area she's in.
Yeah. If her child is Stark County area.
Okay.
Yep.
If he's receiving services, school-based services, private services, I'm not sure. But if she has questions, concerns, she wants some clarity, better understanding, please call me. Please call me. I don't want you to be sad. I understand your feelings, but I have tools, resources, information that I can give you to empower you and your child, so that your child can have access to communication. So please call me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bree. That's so kind. Angela, make sure you reach out to Bree if you need help. Angela, you know how to reach out to me, and we'll get you two connected. One more question I want to reach out. I want to shout out Sharice Grantham. Two questions. I'm sorry. Sharice Grantham asked, do you have a website? How would people get a hold of you?
I do. So my website is thespeechandcareercenter.com, and thespeechandcareercenter.com. All of my information is there, my contact information, my email. There is also a therapy intake form if you want to inquire about therapy services. Right now, I'm offering telehealth services due to the pandemic. But if you complete that intake form, I can at least give you a call, learn more about what your child is in need of. And even if I am not the practice that serves your child, I always make sure that I connect my families with the resources that they need.
That's so great. So great. I'm going to try to share my screen real quick so you guys can see this. Let me take down this so you guys can see it a little bit more. You guys see this, the Speech and Career Center, Improving Functional Communication. You guys go to that website. We'll make sure, I'll have Bree go back and put it in the comments after the show. She can go back and comment to you guys so you guys can see that there. But that information is there for you guys. You guys can see some pictures here of her center and her there with some books and some dice. She has the kids rolling dice a lot and playing with bubbles and good stuff and having some fun. And that's really cool. So you guys make sure you check that out as well. Check out that website. And I want to go to one more question here. And shout out to Ron. I see your husband, Ron, in the comments. He said, great information.
Hey, babe.
Shout out to my man, Ron. So good to have you here today, my friend. So there was one more question that I wanted to get to, and ladies and gentlemen, we won't take long, but I think this is really important. Mrs. Gloria Pope says, what are your thoughts on the 1,000,000-word challenge? Is it a cultural problem that African American children are not exposed to a certain level of interaction or communication, which translate into reading and comprehension problems? I don't know if you're familiar with the 1,000,000-word challenge, but if you are, do you think there's some cultural issues potentially in African American homes or maybe other homes that people aren't exposed to enough words or enough level of interaction that could be causing some problem? Have you seen anything like that?
So what I've worked with a number of families across various ethnicities and cultures and socioeconomic status. And so here's what I'll say. It's important that, and I tell all my families this, we have to give our children access to communication and access to language. And we do that by being very, very intentional about their language. So I always tell families it needs to be a home that is language enriched, okay? And we need to be very, very intentional. I understand, we're new parents, we're busy, on the go, trying to get through the day-to-days. We're raising a toddler. It is a joy, but it's extremely hard.
Right.
But regardless, we've always been very intentional about her language. And what I mean by that is we give her opportunities to communicate. So Brenda doesn't get the grapes or the cookies by, reaching. I have to give her language. That's my job as her parent. I know what grapes are. I know what a cookie is, but she doesn't. So I have to give her access. And so as a baby, because she's learning words, I might say, eat. We started off with this. Eat. You want to eat? More. And we kept modeling that, all the time before we gave her something. And then she gets what she desires. Oh, you want to eat? You want a cracker? Eat. And then she gets a cracker. So I'm being very, very intentional about the language that I'm giving her. And then, probably a week or so later, she stick her little fingers in her mouth because she knows mommy has an expectation, daddy has an expectation, and that is that I must use my gestures, my signs, and say eat. Then I get some yummy food. So good. And so I do that, and I tell my families that come right here to this office, you don't have to be playing with your child structurally all the time to work on language, okay? I don't expect you to set up your home like my therapy room and work with your child. You can do it through activities of daily living. So I always say, it doesn't matter if you're in a rich home or a poor home, if you're in an Asian home or a Black home, you need to be pouring language into your child.
Yes.
And you can do that at bath time. So we talk about bath vocabulary there. Splash, splash. Okay, wash, wash, wash. It's a great time to work on body parts. When we're in the kitchen and we're eating, we're working on food vocabulary. When we go outside, we're pointing out the birds and the clouds and the sounds that we hear. Okay, we're always doing that. It's just natural in our home.
Yes.
My husband's really good at it. I call it daddy daycare home. He's
got
the books that, he's working on the academia things. we're both working on the language. And so we've made sure that our homes are just drenched in language all the time.
That's awesome.
And that's what we need to be doing at home. Whether you have a child who is typically developing or you have a child that has some delays, it needs to be a language enriched home.
I love it. Bree,
I hope that answered the question.
I think so. I think regardless of the race or the socioeconomic background, whatever it is, the key is what we can do. Now, maybe some homes of different people are not exposing their children to enough language, but you're saying do it. And I say to the parents, to the grandparents, shout out to my mom, who this show is dedicated to. She was so good. One, she was patient with us as children, and my mom taught us to speak the King's English. So she said she wouldn't let us just say anything. Now, I have some slang. I lived in the hood and whatnot, so I have some slang, but I also can go meet anybody at any level because I was learning that. And even beyond being little and learning language, as I got older, grade school, middle school, high school, she corrected us. She helped us. We practiced language. I love that. I have a book now my wife and I used to do to learn new words. We're adults and there's a million words that we don't know in the English language, and we started studying those and challenging each other, and it was so much fun. Bree, I just want to thank you so much for being a guest here today. There are so many hearts and love in the comments. People are so grateful for what you shared. Thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are an awesome audience. We have the livest audience anywhere. Thank you guys. As we came on today, this evening, we talked about some heavy topics, and we're going to talk about some things that matter to our country, to the world. That's just going to be a part of what we do. But we're always going to talk about education, motivation, liberation. We're going to have fun. We're going to have laughs, and we're going to have a great time. And I'm going to bring you more great guests. Bree, you were phenomenal. Thank you so much. People, make sure you reach out to her. If you can't get to her, reach out to me. I'll connect you. I promise when we get done, I'm going to tell Bree, hey, get in those comments and go talk to those people so they see who you are, so they can connect to you. And if you guys could use her services, whether it's a little bit of assistance and you're not close enough to her, or whether you're in the Columbus area and you can actually use her services, please let us know. And then if you're someone who's looking to start a business, you have an idea. Maybe you wrote some of your idea in a binder like Bree did, or you wrote it in a notebook, or you put it in your phone, and you just don't know how to get started. Bree has already developed a binder to brick and mortar training that she kicked off earlier this week, and she's going to have more. She doesn't even know what all she's going to have in store for you guys. Me and her talk about it, and I know she's going to have so many great things to help entrepreneurs or even just dreamers of people who want that new job, that new opportunity, that better life. She wants to help you go from thinking it, seeing it, to writing it down, to creating a reality in your life. So Bree, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Lucas, thank you for having me and sharing your audience with me. It means the world. Thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure having you here tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow night for another great episode, 7 p.m. Eastern. Everybody